Hey guys, today I wanted to sit down and kind of have a little chat with you. Well, it's really just one-sided since I can't really see your guys' comments until afterwards, but I just wanted to talk about the decision to have a VBAC versus in another C-section and just kind of the pros and cons of each and just kind of my thought process. We are planning to have a vaginal delivery this time if I go into labor on my own. That's kind of just what we've decided through my doctor. Me and my doctor have discussed that in the 39th week we will end up with another C-section. We haven't scheduled the date exactly yet, but if I do not go into labor before then, we're just going to have another C-section. And that is because baby is measuring big. Calvin was a big boy. He was 8 pounds 6 ounces at 37 weeks exactly. We hope to go a little past that with baby number 2. And she also just says second babies tend to be bigger anyway. And so those two components, the fact that Cal was big and she says second babies tend to be bigger anyway, we've just kind of decided that's how we're going to do it. If I don't go into labor on my own, we're going to end up with another C-section. And so I have spent the last few months trying to come to terms with both outcomes. To have a vaginal delivery, of course, would be number one, like the best case scenario. But the worst case scenario would be that things all happen just like they happened with Calvin, where with Calvin I was induced and I dilated great, but then once we started pushing, I pushed for 2 hours and nothing was happening. And so they just decided it would be better to go with a C-section anyway. So with Calvin, I had, both sides of the situation. I had, a lot of uncomfortableness from trying to deliver vaginally and also a lot of uncomfortableness from having my freaking stomach chopped open to get the baby out, right? So I've had to deal with sucky things on both ends with Calvin. And so that would be sucky if it all happened like that again. If I were in labor trying to have him vaginally but can't do it and end up with another C-section. That's what I'm afraid of. That's like worst case scenario, because I had a lot of guilt about that with Calvin. I had a lot of baby blues about that and just kind of overall a negative birth experience, really, just from feeling like a failure because I wasn't able to deliver the right way, But on the other hand, I really want to be able to at least try. I feel like if I don't even get to try, I feel like maybe that will make me feel like even more of a failure, right? That I didn't even give it a go and at least try to get that, try to get my vaginal delivery. But I don't know. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to envision because it hasn't happened yet. I don't know what's going to happen. But trying to wrap my head around all possible situations is kind of difficult. So the other side of that is my current OB doesn't recommend having more than 3 C-sections just because of the way scar tissue builds up and the fact that it gets more complicated each time and other things can happen during each subsequent pregnancy because of the C-section beforehand. And me and Justin want 4 kids. I've always wanted 4 kids, and we as a little family have always said we're going to have 4 kids, and if I end up with 3 C-sections, that would make it a very difficult decision to decide if we wanted to try for a 4th, knowing that he or she would have to be another C-section again. So the fact that having multiple C-sections could limit our family size is very intimidating and scary and sucky, and that's one of the big reasons why I don't want to end up with another C-section this time. So I just have some pros and cons listed out that I wanted to read to you guys. So the positives of having a planned repeat C-section. If we get to that day in 39 weeks where my doctor's like, you know what, you haven't gone into labor yet, let's just do a C-section. These are the positive things. Baby's birthday is pretty much planned. You know when it's going to happen. So that makes things a little less stressful, I think. Knowing that you don't have to go into labor again ever. You don't have to go through labor ever again, which is both a positive and a negative, if you ask me. Like, never getting to experience real labor or whatever, you know, but the fact that, you know, all my other babies will just be planned. I have this C-section, and if we do have another one, you know, they're all just going to be planned C-sections, and that's just kind of comforting to know that everything is scheduled out already. And not to mention the fact that I wouldn't have to worry about trying for more vaginal deliveries and being disappointed again, you know, just not having that risk of failure and disappointment. So the positives for an attempt at a VBAC but ending up with a C-section would be at least that I tried. You know, at least I got a second chance. At least I got to try it all over again. And we learned that obviously my hips are not made to birth babies, and we can just, you know, go on with our lives knowing that all babies are going to be C-sections out of this mama. So the negatives for another repeat C-section would be feeling cheated for not getting to try, which, I mean, we've kind of established that. Recovery time sucks, of course. Complication risks, the fact that I'll have to only have C-section babies, and then the possibility of our family size being limited because I've had so many C-sections. So there are plenty of negatives to go with the positives of a C-section. But the negatives of an attempted VBAC are feeling like a failure, like I said, and risks of relating back to Calvin's birth and feeling that traumatic disappointment and just feeling a failure like I had with Calvin's birth. I don't want things to feel, I don't want to feel like I did after Calvin's birth, like just feeling like a failure. I don't want to have that again. So the other end of things is that I've had a high risk pregnancy. Other things, complications could come up that would make it a safer idea to go with another C-section, and that is hard to wrap my head around. I mean, I tried to talk to my doctor at every appointment about that kind of stuff, like what could happen that would make me need to have a C-section, things that could go wrong that would make you want to have a C-section for me, you know, like just what are the possibilities? You know, I just wish that I had a list of things like, if this happens, C-section. If this happens, still try for a vaginal delivery. You know, like I just wish that everything was more set in stone when it's all really still just very up in the air. And I realize that childbirth is like that. And I realize that the medical interventions and then the like access we have these days is just unbelievable. And I know that childbirth is a natural thing, and we've been doing it obviously for thousands of years, and it's just really hard to accept that the doctor knows what she's doing and she's making the best decisions possible for me and my baby and the family and everybody, you know. So it's hard. It's hard to decide for yourself. It's hard to trust somebody else too, but it's hard just knowing that everything is up in the air, and it would be that way in any birthing situation, right? You know, you don't know how everything's going to turn out in any situation, you know? So I hope to try to be able to wrap my head around these different scenarios and be able to be at peace with whatever ends up happening. So I know this video is kind of rambly, not necessarily super structured, but I do hope that you guys at least gathered a little bit of something from it. Maybe you have a good story about your attempted VBAC or your desires for another C-section or whatever your situation is. I hope that this at least you could kind of relate. So if you guys do have any comments or anything, any stories you want to tell down below, I would be super interested in reading them and hearing about your guys' situations. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what other kind of content you want to see here on this channel. Even if it is a little bit of a rambly topic, I hope that I can put it out for you guys, whatever it is you want to see. So give the video a thumbs up if you did like it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.